Can we start? Nu i-ați dat drumul încă, așa-i? Ok. Hi everyone, and welcome to our Fintech and Ruby on Rails event. We'd like to say hello to everyone who is here with us in the room today, and also to the people watching us online. Thank you for choosing to spend your time with us this afternoon. I am Gina, and I'm the CEO and founder of Wolfpack Digital, and we are hosting today's event. We'd like to extend a special thanks to Taxylvania, as this is a Taxylvania satellite event, and this is the third year in a row that we've partnered up with this conference, and we are very happy to see it progressing in the online world. We'd also like to thank Ikigai, our partner, for joining us. Ikigai is the next disruptive fintech product on the market, and we will be hearing from their co-founder in the second part of the meetup. A few words about Wolfpack Digital. Wolfpack Digital is an award-winning, full-service web and mobile development agency based here in Cluj. We have a team of 55 people who are very passionate about building various products that impact the world in a real way. And some of our work involves building fintech apps with Ruby on Rails. So here you can see the connection between our two topics today. Let's go through the schedule for today. In the first part, we'll be hearing from Florin, Ionce, and Motogna, who are Ruby on Rails developers in our company. They will be giving us a presentation on reactive components in real-time apps, looking at Vue versus Rails. In the second part, as I was saying earlier, we will be joined by co-founder of Ikigai, Edgar de Picciotto, who will be sharing with us insights from his journey of building Ikigai. A few house rules before we proceed. This is a hybrid event, therefore we ask you to please be mindful of all social distancing rules. And secondly, the sole purpose of this meetup is bringing together like-minded professionals, and therefore any recruitment activities are highly discouraged. We thank you very much for understanding. That being said, we hope that you'll have a good time, and I would like to invite Florin Ionce, who is head of web development at Wolfpack Digital, and Victor Motogna, who is a Ruby on Rails and Android developer in our team, to give us their tech presentation. We look forward to it. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So, as Gina mentioned earlier, we'd like to talk about reactive components in real-time applications. And I noticed that there are two very buzzwords in the title, and I'd like to clarify them just to make sure that we are all on the same page. The first one would be reactive, and by this we mean reactive components that make the user interactions automatically adapt, so the user doesn't need to re-render or refresh the page in order to see his actions take place. The second one would be real-time, and by this we mean that applications that automatically refresh the feed, for example, so you don't need again to re-render the page and refresh in order to see new incoming data and to react to data flow. Now, a very important part that Gina also mentioned is that we would like to compare Vue and Rails. I think that the general knowledge on front-end applications is that Rails was a little bit left behind and that JavaScript frameworks are now the industry standard, but we'd like to clarify that with the use of the proper libraries, we can do just as well with some Rails frameworks, and that reactive real-time applications are also doable in Rails. So I'd like to initially present a demo. We can see that we have applications just in vanilla Ruby on Rails, and it doesn't use any special things like WebSockets and reactive components. So we have a database already from our local host, and we can see, if we are watching closely the browser, that every time we interact with, for example, a simple button of liking the post, the app needs to refresh. You see, it's not reactive. The page needs to re-render again in order to refresh, and the second one doesn't even react to the new posts, for example, don't appear on the other side. On the other side, when using view, if you watch closely, button presses don't need a refresh in order to work, and neither do, for example, new posts. They will appear automatically. I'm not sure why my local host may be broke, but the idea is that we all know already that Vue does things reactive. We have, for example, the @click binding that does the reactive binding already. And we can see that right now we have an example with Rails that we'd like to go with walkthrough with code that can already do new posts automatically on both sides, that the browser doesn't need to refresh. If you watch closely, when pressing a button, it automatically reacts to the user interaction. For more details of how we implemented this, I will let Florin take over.
Yeah, thank you. So we are going to focus on the Rails application, and it's important to mention that we used a couple of libraries or gems. The first one is Cable Ready. For those of you who are familiar with Rails, you probably know Action Cable, which is the default tool you get for WebSockets when you build a Rails application. It's built in the framework, so this is a library built on top of that, and it has a couple of advantages. It allows you to render your content server side and then broadcast it to all the clients. Of course, you can achieve this with Action Cable only, but Cable Ready has some pretty neat helpers which allow you to do it without having to write any JavaScript. You just need to set it up, and it's sort of plug and play. You don't have to catch those events and then manipulate the DOM and change the content there. So it's making it a lot easier, especially for backend developers. Yeah, and we'll see in a minute how we did it. And then we also used Stimulus Reflex, which is working really well with Cable Ready, but it's mostly responsible for the reactive part of the application. It's just that it's using Cable Ready to be also real time, but it has two components. It has the template part where you have all those bindings, as Victor mentioned. You have the @click in Vue or ng-click in Angular or hover, or all those events you can trigger or capture in the front-end application. So you have a lot of helpers for that. They are doing it using data attributes. And then those are calling methods in something called reflexes, which are responsible for implementing the business logic, like you would call an API from your Vue application, and then it broadcasts the content with Cable Ready. This is like the main idea, and we can we can take a look at the code, but still here the important parts. Oh yeah, before that, it's really lightweight, so it only has 54 kilobytes. It's even lighter than Vue, which is quite impressive. Yeah, it's of course a lot lighter than Angular or Ember, which are fully fledged frameworks, not libraries. And yeah, let's see the code. Yeah, so the first thing we need, it's something which is actually not Cable Ready or Stimulus Reflex. It's a channel. It's the feed channel you can see on the top image. It's just an Action Cable channel, as you would see in any Rails application. It's creating a channel to communicate backend to frontend. And when a client subscribes to it, it streams through that channel, and that's it. And on the lower image, we have all the JavaScript we need, actually. It's just boilerplate code to subscribe, so this is on the client side, of course. You subscribe to that feed channel, as we called it, and then you have the handler on data received. Yeah, when you receive data, do that. So, but it's pretty standard, and that's the only JavaScript needed to capture the events and then update the DOM. Yeah, and for those familiar with Rails, you've probably seen this. These are some Rails templates. So it's HTML mixed with Ruby. It has some helpers which generates code. But yeah, we can see in the top image we have a partial called form, which is just the form you saw in Victor's demo to capture the data, to input and submit it to the server. We have a div with an identifier, that ID feed, and then we iterate through all the posts we have and render a partial called post to render all the posts. Yeah, and we wanted to show you the form just to see that it's a simple Rails form. It's just a form. It uses some helpers, but it doesn't have anything fancy, no JavaScript, no nothing. This is just to submit the data. And I would like to show you in comparison how we achieve this. I mean, yeah, we can see the broadcast first. Yeah, this is the controller. So basically the endpoint where the data is submitted, how it looks like. It's a simple Rails controller, but we noticed that we include a module called Cable Ready Broadcaster. This is something we get from the Jam, and it's helping us broadcast the data. The first part is standard Rails. For those of you who are familiar, we get the parameters from the front end and we create a post. That's it. And then we want to broadcast the event together with the content what was updated. So we are using a cable ready method, insert adjacent HTML. And this is where the magic happens. That's the beauty of it, because from the back end we can specify, okay, I want this content to be sent to this selector, that div ID which we showed earlier, feed, and we simply say, okay, I want to insert this content in that div, and that's it. That's all we have to do, and then broadcast it. Is that cable ready.broadcast method. You can see that it has some helper methods. You can specify the selector where you want the content to be rendered, and the position if you want to put it at the top of the file or whatever. There are also other helpers, but we'll see more a bit later. And yeah, this is the entire logic. We need to create a post and then broadcast it to all of them. And now we can take a look at the Vue application, not the entire application, just what we have to do extra. So yeah, of course we have the template. It's a simple component. It's nothing special. It's reactive by default. So if you have an array of posts and then you have this v4, you iterate through it, and if you add another one in that array, it will appear automatically. You don't have to worry about it. But yeah, here we had to worry about the WebSockets. So we had to create the WebSockets connection, and then we had to implement some callbacks. The first one we needed was the onOpen. So when the connection is opened, we just send a command to subscribe to a channel, and we reuse the same channel. It's really not important. You can have multiple channels on the same page. But yeah, for this example, we only needed one. So we subscribe to the same channel you saw earlier, and then we just send the command to the server, and then the handshake is made, and we are ready to receive messages. And then we also have the on message callback. I'm not going to go into too much details, but we parse the data, we ignore the pings, and then we check if we get the data we want, if it's coming from the right channel, if it's valid or not, and then we do whatever we want with it. In our case, put it in the list, and yeah, that's it. Yeah, we have to do all these checks so we don't get funny errors or unexpected behavior. Yes, so this is a bit of a comparison between the WebSockets implementation between Cable Ready and the JavaScript way or the normal way. Yeah, and I'm going to invite Victor to talk about the reactive part of the Rails application.
Yeah, so Florin until now showed the feature where we can create posts and they automatically render. I will like to show you how we did the automatically updating the likes and the reposts without having to refresh the page. So again, this is simple ERB file. We don't have anything special here with the except of the data reflex. Here we handle the click event, which is very similar to the examples Florin said, that are handled in the post reflex file at the repost or like method. This is the single thing we need to do in order to handle the events automatically, and we don't need to create any more logic from the front-end side. On the back-end side, again, we need the broadcaster part and the cable-ready implementation. And we see that we have two very similar methods where we simply increment the parameter that is passed. And then instead of the example before, instead of inserting HTML, we only update the text content to the DOM ID, which is a helper that we used both in the ERB file. If you see, we had a DOM ID method, which is a helper method from Ruby, which gives the post and the like as parameters. So it's easy for us to see which item we want to update on the Ruby side. And then, of course, we need to connect to the same feed, to the same channel feed, in order to update the data on the same side. And this is about it. To have a conclusion, this is about it on the code. To have a conclusion, the idea is that the next time you want to have a front-end and back-end application, you shouldn't disregard Ruby on Rails from the start. And because it might just do the things that you want, you might want to consider learning Ruby or Ruby on Rails in order to use it. But all jokes aside, we think that there are some specific use cases and advantages for both. To start with the Rails side, of course, it's easier for us to have a single language code base. If we already know Ruby on Rails, some part of our team already knows Ruby and JavaScript, but having single language code base, writing only one time the WebSocket implementation would save a lot of time. And another advantage would be if you have only back-end and front-end applications that don't need to support, for example, mobile APIs, you won't have any duplicate controller code. On the other side, we all know that there are many advantages to JavaScript frameworks. They are a little bit more popular, much larger communities, but the idea here is to present a new alternative, and if you want to learn it, of course, there are many possibilities. And very similar to what I mentioned earlier, if you need to support other technologies and if you have a server already implemented, you might want to go with the JavaScript framework for front-end. These combinations work best when you have a Rails backend, cable ready, and stimulus reflex together. So this was our presentation. We'd love to hear some questions from your side if there are any. Our colleague Corina, I don't know where you are, will also read the questions from the stream if you have any.
Yeah, so you can write them down.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yep.
How do you decide what route? You guys are fancy here.
Okay, so my question is, how do you decide what triggers an event from front end? Is that any change of the value of the div, or can you trigger that message on the channel only when you want something specific?
So it's when you want it. So here we wanted when you click on a link to trigger the event. You can have it on, I don't know, hover, on, yeah, it's pretty much like any other JavaScript application. You can have, you can choose the trigger. Where, or was this the question? Okay.
Any other questions from the online part, if there are any questions? Okay.
I have a question about the topic for today. So, is this a topic that preoccupies you on a daily basis, and has it preoccupied you more in the past year than before?
I would say yes. Yeah, so personally, I'm a core Ruby developer, but I had to learn JavaScript. I like it. It's not that I don't like it, but I know that there are apps where I know that if I need something fast, but also some elements need to be fancy, I know I can be faster by using just Rails. And the code base could be easier to maintain. So yeah, it's something I've been waiting for a while. Yeah. If you have anything to add.
Yeah, I think that there are some use cases where this works very well, and I think that many people don't know this. So it was a great topic to bring to the attention of people that already know how to use other technologies, but might want to learn Ruby on Rails, and they should know that they can have the whole stack right in front of them.
Okay, can you think of a use case where this is not a good idea?
So as I mentioned before, if you also need to support mobile applications, or you need your API to be public, if you go on this route, you will also need to write duplicate code for another controller that will handle the API separately. So this will handle the Ruby on Rails templating and controller part, but you will also need to have separate namespaces for the API, for versioning, and so on. And you will basically need to maintain two very similar parts.
Yeah, and if you have WebSockets, you have a mobile app and you need WebSockets in there, you can't simply stream HTML code. They would need JSON or something. So, yeah, but it's mostly to avoid duplicate code.
Yep. If there are no other questions, we want to thank you very much for your attention, and I'll invite Gina back to tell us about the schedule.
Yeah, thank you very much, Florin and Victor, for the great presentation. It has been very informative. Now we'd like to invite you for a 20-minute break before we connect with Edgar de Picciotto. Thank you. See you soon. Hi everyone and welcome for the second part of our meetup about Ruby on Rails and Fintech. We are very happy to have Ikigai co-founder Edgar de Picciotto together with us today. He will be sharing with us his journey of building Ikigai. Ikigai is a super exciting Fintech solution that actually proposes a new lifestyle where wealth management is combined with everyday banking in a single app. Edgar, thank you very much for accepting our invitation today. How are you today?
Feeling great. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. My first question for you is if you can please tell us a bit more about yourself and about Ikigai.
Sure. So I come from Switzerland. I'm there right now, which is the country of banks. I'm passionate about how technology can improve our lives, and it really fuels how we build Ikigai. And the underlying idea of Ikigai is really to help people better take care of their finances.
Okay, let's go a bit into your why. Why did you decide to start this beautiful journey? What motivates you?
Yeah, so I mean, it's an interesting idea. We were working at McKinsey, the consulting company, and the way it works is you have different projects, and sometimes each project you're with completely different people. So I did one project with Maurizio, my co-founder. Actually, it was a project for a fintech, and we started discussing a bit about how there are a lot of like really cool digital banks coming to the market, but no one that were really helping us to better take care of our money. They were only like tools empowering us to, I don't know, save money by cutting the costs and make the life a bit easier, because the UX is still a huge improvement compared to the traditional banks. But there was nothing that was really, teaching us, accompanying us to better save our money and invest our money. And at the same time, we were looking around, and ourselves and our colleagues as well at McKinsey, everyone was like too busy to actually take care of their money. So people were making like a decent salary at McKinsey, but no one was actually investing it. Either people had a decent amount of cash parked on their current account, or were not doing anything with it, and other people were just like, even with a good salary, were still like living from paycheck to paycheck. So that's where we saw like there's a real problem, and this problem is not a problem that is dependent on the level of income. So, for example, in the UK, there are some statistics that the Financial Times published, where 39% of people in the UK have experienced financial concerns. However, very interesting, the people earning more than 100K a year were reporting the same level of worry as the people earning less than 10K a year. So this is really the type of fact that told us that it's a widespread issue. So we built Ikigai to bring this financial self-care idea. So the third thing we were looking at in the market is there is a huge self-care movement that is ongoing. So people talk about physical health, mental health, everything is heightened up due to COVID even more. But there's actually not that much talk about financial self-care. So this is a topic we want to bring in, that we want to discuss more about it, and we are publishing articles about it, etc., because it's something we really care about. Because, like, of course, physical and mental health are important, but like financial health is actually a catalyst to have the two others. So they all work in harmony, and if you completely neglect your finances, it will be very difficult to work on both physical health and mental health.
That's a super, super interesting idea, and I know you've been publishing many interesting articles, and I encourage our audience, both online and offline, to check out also your Medium page, and to follow you actually on all the social media channels. I know you're present everywhere. I would like to ask you about the challenges you've had as a startup founder.
Yeah, I mean, the main challenge, of course, is always like leaving your job and starting it. Like it's the step that needs to be taken. So the way it happened to me is we were discussing so much about that idea with Maurizio that at some point I was working in my job, but I kept thinking about the idea, and that's when I thought, okay, now I need to leave my job and start doing that and exploring that idea. And the interesting thing is that very quickly it goes from an idea that you're exploring to an idea that you're actually starting to build. And I was expecting to be something a bit more defined, like now I'm working on it, but actually I was exploring more and more until I was starting to build it. So that was one key challenge. I mean, then there's of course the ongoing challenge that we need to be ultra focused, especially on the customer needs. Like it's you are always distracted. There are always like other stuff you want to do than focusing on the product and the customer. And it takes really a conscious effort to like say to yourself, okay, now I'm going to spend a week talking with customers to understand their pain point, and not do, I don't know, other activities that can be distracting at the current stage.
Right. Thank you for your answer. And about that, I know that you've been in beta testing for a while. So I was wondering how that was going. Do you have any important learnings or challenges from this stage?
Sure. So the initial feedback is super interesting. So what we see is that our users are really loving the premium and exclusive experience of Ikigai, but also of the beta testing experience. So it's always exciting for people to try something in beta test. And for example, there are a couple of things that they like a lot in this experience. So every user has a 15 to 30 minute call with Anna Browning, who is our head of operations, to make their experience a bit more personal and beyond like just an app, just beyond digital banking. And it's something that, I mean, initially we see that people are a bit reluctant to do that 15 to 30 minutes call with Aina. But after it, they just say that they love it because, I mean, then they have a human face they can interact with, they can ask questions that they have. And of course, because we're talking about money, we're talking about investments, of course, people have questions and worries. So it has been really energizing to have those initial discussions with them.
Yeah, it sounds really exciting, especially after spending so much time building the product and imagining it, finally seeing the direct feedback from your users.
Yeah, exactly. Other couple of things that people are excited by is that they get a lot of compliments on the card. So when they pay in restaurants, etc. So that's pretty cool. And also, users are also very excited about investing itself. So the cool thing is that people can start investing with £1 or £5. And then they put £5, and then after a couple of weeks they check it back and they see that the £5 have become like £5.2, for example. And then they see, and it builds the trust. And now, after they see that the money has grown, not from a huge amount, but on £5 that's normal, they see, oh, okay, I should actually start putting more. And this also shows the key next challenge that we need to tackle is to really build further this trust with our users.
That sounds amazing. And I would like to ask you about the benefits, at least broadly, that you believe Ikigai brings to the market. Because now we went through your why, so why you decided to start this, how it works up until now. But let's see a bit about where you're heading and what your first Ikigai users can expect from the app. What challenges are you actually solving for them in the first version of the app, let's say?
Yeah, so what we're bringing to the market is a premium experience to better take care of your finance. So there are a couple of elements to that. The first is that it's a premium service. So the idea is it's not just an app, it's an overall service where you can talk directly to us, to Aina Browning, head of operations, and you can directly do everything you need. So if you lose your card, you can directly contact us. And that's something that is not heard of in the digital app, mobile banking app space, where more and more you're often confronted to endless discussions with chatbots, etc. So we're really putting forward this premium experience. That also means that the app is decluttered. So where we've seen other financial apps kind of a race to accumulate features, we want to keep the experience as simple as possible for the user. We're really focusing on the UX to make sure that people can understand easily what they need to do what they want to do.
Right, so it's much more than an app. It's actually an experience, it's a full service, and this is what takes us to the idea of a new lifestyle and financial health, as you were saying. Yeah, that sounds really amazing. Since we are talking also about health and lifestyle, things have changed quite a lot in the past few months, and we were wondering what has changed for you personally and professionally as the co-founder of Ikigai.
Yeah. Let me start with professionally. So, of course, we started working from home. And then we started in the past months going to the office again. And now we have to start to work from home again due to the new UK regulation. So this, of course, brings some frustration. So the interesting part with this working from home is that initially when it was introduced in March, actually, we saw quite impressive productivity boost in the team. Mm-hmm. So people could finally focus on what they needed to focus on and stop doing meetings, etc. So that was pretty cool. But now I think we are starting to run out a bit of this energy. And what the main challenge is that you need to do it live to have creativity. Mm-hmm. To exchange ideas. Because the cool ideas, they don't come in a scheduled 30 minutes meeting. They come when you have a coffee break around the street with one of your colleagues. That's where the ideas come. And this is making it more difficult. But we kind of try to address that by having lunch meetings via Zoom. And that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you think the pandemic is changing financial behaviors in a way that should make us all rethink the way that we build fintech apps?
Yeah, that's for sure. So there's an interesting story for that. So when we started doing Ikigai, we really went big for that digital private banking service. And the idea was because we want to build something premium, we have to compare ourselves to the private banks. But after a while, and thinking about it, and also seeing the COVID, we actually realized that this private banking, while it's appealing, is in the first instance, it's not really what people were looking for. So after a lot of brainstorming, we decided to shift from that private banking theme to more of a self-care theme, which is in the end what we always wanted to do. And it to be honest, has been a huge success for us. People really love it. And since the COVID, this topic has become more and more important, and there's more and more to say. And it really helped also focus our marketing. So we want to see our marketing as a way to educate our potential customers instead of just selling a cool app and a cool card.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of education, I was thinking perhaps it would be interesting to learn what Ikigai actually means, because it's a word, right? And yeah. I believe it's quite representative for what you do. So how come you chose this name for your service and your startup?
So Ikigai means in Japanese the reason for being. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that in Ikigai you can invest for your goals. So for example, in the app you can invest for buying a home in 10 years, for when you will have a child in 5 years, that kind of stuff. And that's the idea behind the Ikigai. The reason for being, it's kind of why you wake up in the morning, and it's to achieve those goals. And why did we go for specifically a Japanese name? I think there are multiple reasons. The first reason was that when we started discussing it, we were by pure coincidence, Maurizio and I both in Japan. So we love the country, and we met there. That's where we started discussing a lot about Ikigai. And then there's also this concept that when you look around about stuff that talk about investment and finances and trading and those kinds of topics, they will always have a marketing that is very masculine, very aggressive. That will be something like the, name of Greek gods, very aggressive name, marketing catchphrase like get rich fast, crush the other, and that kind of stuff. And it was important for us to show that there's a different way of thinking about finances. And it's a bit more of a calm and steady way of, finding this harmony in your finances to budget how much you want to spend, save the rest, invest in the long term in a good and stable portfolio.
Yeah, and I know your logo is also very beautiful and it inspires well-being. So I think it's great to have someone different on the market with a different approach that's more balanced. So yeah, that's definitely something that people remember when interacting with your brand for the first time. Now, leaving the name and the inspiration and the pandemic aside, I would like to touch a bit the topic of regulations. Do you think the fintech world is lacking anything in particular in terms of regulations?
I mean, the main thing I would say at this stage is that there's kind of it's very unclear for the market what's the difference between trading and investing. So just to give a brief explanation for people who are not accustomed to it. So trading is buying and selling with the goal of making a short-term profit. And investing is more of a long-term thing where you try to diversify your portfolio, invest in a lot of different things and holding this over time. And we feel that the way the regulations are set up, they're not really making the difference between the two. And it creates a lot of confusion for the potential customers because they will automatically think that trading and investing is the same thing, when actually it's not. It has two different uses, two different way of doing, and two different results.
Mm-hmm. And do you see the regulations changing in the near future?
Tough to say right now.
Okay.
I hope so.
Okay. I don't know if you've seen a pretty popular documentary these days that's called The Social Dilemma. Have you seen it?
I haven't, but I've heard so much about it.
Right. So this documentary is basically showing the audience how tech giants are actually, in a way, manipulating our behaviors as app users, as technology users. And clearly, this shapes the mindsets of the viewers of this documentary. And I was wondering if you think this will have any kind of impact on the mentality of fintech solutions users.
Yeah, so it's an essential topic, and it's really core to the approach we have with Ikigai. So the thing is, all of these mobile apps, the social networks, but also the mobile gaming, they're all engineered to create addiction by giving us dopamine. And why do they do that? They do that because they have a free model or a freemium model, and the key to their success is the engagement. So the more engagement they have, the more success they will have, because they will have more eyeballs, and so they will have more potential ads revenue or microtransaction. And of course, it's a huge issue that big companies are trying to manipulate the mind they're never doing it explicitly, but it's more a product of refining their design over time and optimizing for their income, of course. But it's already an issue that they're manipulating the human psychology for social media and gaming. But what about when it becomes more an issue when it's about the money? So once they're like, if they start manipulating us around money, then it becomes an issue. So the biggest recent example of this is Robinhood. So I don't know if you've heard about Robinhood, but it's the US-based trading app. And basically, they made trading as fun as playing Candy Crush. So every time you buy a stock, you get some confettis and cool music, and everything lights up, and it feels so cool to just buy a share in Tesla. And I don't know if you saw, but there's like, people lost so much money on it, like because they incentivize you to treat trading as a casino,
like gambling in a way, right?
Yeah, and they encourage this behavior through the design. And that's where at Ikigai we want to promote a different model. So we want to promote mindful spending, and this is one of the main reasons we're going for a subscription model in the end. So with Ikigai, the idea is like it's not free, so that we can actually give you a good experience that is where we don't have incentives to put ads everywhere, push you for more engagement, push you for microtransactions, all that kind of stuff. So with Ikigai, you pay £20 per month and you get a high quality experience, which means a decluttered banking experience without ads that helps you better spend your money for what you care for, the peace of mind that your money is invested and managed, and a premium and human customer support service. So that's where I think it was kind of a trap in the tech companies of trying to cut the cost so much that everything has become free. But as we always say, when something is free, that's actually you're the product.
Yes. So it sounds like actually ethical design and having an ethical model has been one of your preoccupations from day one. And in the context of this maybe temporary shift of mindset with the social dilemma, Ikigai seems prepared to basically make everyone looking to manage their wealth feel safer. Okay, so for everyone with us today, do you have any advice that you'd like to share with us in terms of wealth management, financial management, investment?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not a financial advisor, so I can say that as I say. So as a general advice, I would say it's very important that money is emotional. So that's the step one for me, understanding, improving your behavior around money. As soon as you start understanding that money is emotional and that you will react emotionally to it, you start giving yourself slack. Like it's okay to make a large purchase if it makes you happy. And you shouldn't punish yourself for doing that. And then once you understand that, then it's time to start making a plan, starting making a budget, and then practice mindful spending. So when you buy something, try to ask yourself, is this thing worth it? Does it bring me happiness? It's a bit Marie Kondo type of thinking, but it actually applies. Of course, it applies when you're cleaning up stuff, but it applies even more when you're actually buying the stuff initially.
Yeah, mindful spending. I love that. Okay,
exactly.
Any other advice you have for the people in the room or for other fintech players on the market or even traditional players on the market? And it can be advice in terms of technology. We've spoken about Ruby on Rails in the first part of the meetup, or it can be something related to UX. We have already discussed engagement, addiction, ethical design, and so on. Or it can be something different, business-wise.
Yeah, I think the most important of all is to start from the people. Try, like, especially at our stage, it's very important that we try to make every decision thinking about what the customer will feel like about the decision and whether it will interest our new potential customer. So I think what made it also very easy for us is that Maurizio and myself, we're actually the first customers of Ikigai. Like, it's an app that we want, and we built the app that we want to use. And by understanding deeply who your customers are, what they do, how they do it, then you can start identifying the problem and find solutions to it. And so that's why, like, we believe at Ikigai that making a good product is a product that makes your life better and easier and easier. That's where all of the energy should go in.
Definitely. Thank you for all your insightful answers. And now we'd like to take a few questions, if we have any, from the audience.
Sure.
The first one is, do you think about fintech as an innovation, future of money, or way of bringing social change?
I cannot hear fully.
Okay, Corina, maybe we can have a look at the question together.
I will give you my phone.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so many questions, wow. So the first question, okay, so the first question was actually from Wana. She was asking about the product name and the story of the process, and you told us that you were in Japan. And here I would like to ask you, had you been looking for a name for a long time before you got struck by Ikigai?
Sorry, I couldn't hear that yet.
Yeah, were you thinking about the name for a long time before you you were in Japan and decided on it?
So actually, it took about 2 weeks, something like that. Just like we knew we wanted a Japanese name to convey that kind of Zen feeling of it, and we were both passionate about Japan. That was important to us, and we just bounced off Japanese words until like this one. We felt that this one was the right one.
Okay. The next question, do you think about fintech as an innovation, future of money, or mode of bringing social change?
So, I mean, I can mostly talk about Ikigai, but of course we have the vision of doing the three. So it's an innovation that is building basically the future of money. And of course these changes will bring huge social changes. So when we think about Ikigai, the idea is to not copy the model of the traditional banks, is to bring a new model of making banking better. And by banking better, with Ikigai, we mean better take care of your money. And once you extend that idea, if you think about a bank that helps you better manage your money, it opens so many opportunities of what you can do.
Thank you for that. The next question from Nikos, what does a normal day of a fintech co-founder look like?
The question I have then is, what is a normal day? So every day is a bit different. So right now I'm all doing product design. So I'm doing wireframes and user flows all day long. A week from now, I'll probably start doing prototypes. The week before, I did a lot of customer interviews. And of course, there are all the ongoing activities. So recruiting, getting the funding, looking for, managing the team, all of that stuff. So, and I'm not sure there's like a typical day.
Okay, and are you enjoying this diversity of activities? Is it too much? Is it too little sometimes?
No, I really enjoy that. Like I'm the type of person who gets bored when I spend too much time.
I totally understand you, and I can relate to that. The next question, what would you change if you started all over again tomorrow with your startup?
Interesting question. I'm coming back to this point about being focused on customers. I think we could have saved a lot of time by talking to customers sooner and doing more discussions with customers and prototypes and stuff like that. This could have saved us some time, definitely. Yeah, that would have been the main thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. When are you launching it, and which countries will it be available for?
So we are in beta test mode, and we see launching. We consider ourselves already launched because we already have live customers. We have currently more than 50 beta testers who are trying the app, and we really see as a rolling thing. So every week we onboard new users, and until doing this limited beta test program is not practical anymore, then we put it on the App Store. But for me, I consider that we have already launched. And then in terms of countries it will be available for, so currently it's UK only, but of course we want to bring it all over as soon as possible.
Because we would really love to have this in Romania too, just so you know.
I know.
Okay, the next question, okay, it's from Corina. She's saying someone near her is asking, where does Ikigai stand on cryptocurrency, and will we see an Ikigai coin?
Interesting question. So that's not really in our plans right now. So crypto is definitely an interesting technology, but we feel it's not answering, or at least we haven't found cryptocurrencies to be the solution to our customer problems. So our customer problems are, I want to better spend, I want to save more, I want to invest my money. And we haven't seen yet how cryptocurrency solves that issue.
Okay, got it. So it's a no for now, but who knows in the future, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and we have one more question. Given your target group, did you encounter the mentality, why should I spend money if I want to save money? And if so, how did you tackle it?
Yeah, so that's why we don't promote save all your money. We promote mindful spending because we feel spending makes us happy, of course. Like, I don't know, when I don't know, if I buy myself, I don't know, a good restaurant, I will enjoy it, and I will be very happy to pay for it. So that's where we really try to promote this mindful spending concept of, like, when you spend for something, try to spend money on stuff that makes you happy. And if it's not making you happy, it's probably worth saving that money instead.
Got it. We have actually one more question. Your user focus is very interesting. Any success stories you can share from your users so far? I know you mentioned something in the beginning of our conversation. Or any incident that a user comment was so strong that made you rethink of the product design?
So success stories, I feel that the main success stories right now are people who have invested some money and already saw a return on it, and they're like so happy. It's like, oh, whoa, that works! I'm actually making money on my money. And in a world where interest rates are so low, it sounds like an enormous achievement. In terms of incident, I mean, we didn't have any huge incidents so far, luckily. But there was one interesting comment that informed a lot of our current design is, so we have this idea in Ikigai that you can invest automatically from your banking account to your investments at the end of every month. And one user actually set that up, and that user was actually very, very surprised that money was actually invested at the end of the month, and was like, oh, but I didn't know my money was invested. And like we said, no, but it's actually written in the app. Your money will automatically be invested at the end of the month. And then here we realized that a lot of people love the concept on paper of automation, but in practice, especially when it's money, people kind of like control as well. So we're actually adding this feature in the app to give the optionality to the users between automated investment or that can give themselves a target. So for example, people can say, oh, I want to invest £200 per month, and then the app will show you that as a target for yourself.
And did you get any like really powerful insight from one of your users at any time to make you think like, yeah, this is a great idea for a new feature?
I think it's more like we have a lot, we bounce around so many ideas all the time that I cannot think of an idea from a user that was like completely new. But every time we hear feedback, we do this kind of prioritization in our heads that, oh, okay, this is actually more important than we thought.
Right.
And it's kind of always reevaluating that. At this stage, we don't have that many users, so this prioritization is pretty easy, but I think at some point we need to do some sort of point system where the stuff that gets the most requested, we make sure to prioritize it and kind of stuff.
Right, because you can't really listen to all the feedback that you get, right? You need to make sure that it's validated from multiple angles. And we've seen that as one of the issues that startups encounter. They don't know exactly which feedback to choose to work on. Okay, do we have any other questions from the room? Yes, please. Maybe we can get them. Okay, yes. Okay, how much financial knowledge does your ideal user have before signing up for the app?
I think it's really the financial knowledge of the average population. So they know about money, they know they can invest, they know it's usually pretty good to invest for the long term, and that it's better to diversify your investments. That's kind of what they know at this stage, and that's what we expect them to know. And then a key thing we're working now on in the app is to give a lot more information in the app to actually build that trust on how the investments are made, why we are making the investments as they are, etc.
And if I may ask, are you mainly targeting young professionals, or what's your target audience?
Yeah, it's young professionals. So the idea is, to start investing, you need to have enough money to be able to save. So usually if you're fresh out of school, it's a bit difficult to do that. So, I mean, I would say really the core target is between 27 and 35-year-old, or even more than 35-year-old, with at least some money to invest. Like you have 5K, 10K, 20K lying on your current account. That's Ikigai is probably a good thing for you.
Thank you for your answer. Do we have any other questions from the room? Well, I think that's it. Thank you very much, Edgar. It has been a pleasure. It was a very, very insightful conversation. We wish you all the best with Ikigai, and we look forward to using it too here in Romania. You got us really excited. For our audience, you can find out more about Ikigai on ikigai.money, and you can get in touch with Wolfpack Digital on wolfpack-digital.com, as you perhaps already know. And we will be moving on with our evening. We will have a short networking session that's not going to be broadcasted, of course. And for the people here with us today, we have some pretty cool Ikigai stickers, and we invite you to take some. So thank you very much, and have a great evening. Bye, Edgar.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the event.